Right, good evening ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a game which has a very strange start button. An accept death button, which is truly unique. Right then, yes, good evening and welcome to a game called Undying Beast. The Undying Beast, even. Which apparently is a bit spooky. Which is good, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't have much point in being here, would it? Am I being lowered down into a perfectly shaped grave to fit my coffin in? Because that's what that shape was. Oh, goodness. Can you see that? As like the camera moves, there's a funny effect where instead of moving my head like that, I kind of sort of tilt my head as I go around. It's very, very unique. I've never seen anything quite like that before, but it does add a certain level of, like, a humanness to the movement, I suppose. I don't know how to describe it. Right then, was I the person being lowered into the grave? Presumably, am I the undying beast then? Am I some sort of vampire or zombie creature that comes back to life after death? I don't know, but there's a nice flower here. A daffodil. 1 of 7. Alright. We're going to go on a lovely flower collecting adventure while we have a look at this atom bomb that somebody seems to have dropped here, which I have a funny feeling is actually the body of a whale. Hello, Mr. Whale. I am sorry that this predicament has transpired. Ugh, kitty. Oh, that's a bit vicious. Yes, it's definitely a whale. Either that or it's an enormous shark. It's a little difficult to tell. In fact, no, that does look like a whale's tail. I thought whales' tails were usually like on a 90-degree angle to that. You know, so they could sort of go up and down rather than left and right, as it were. At least to the best of my whale knowledge. But I don't have a degree in whaleology, so you'll forgive me if I haven't got the first baldies what I'm talking about. Can I run? Yes, I can. I can also spy something off in the distance there. A light. I don't personally know of any glowing flowers, but perhaps this is a glowing flower that we're going to go and find. I don't really know why a zombie or a vampire would be interested in collecting flowers. I don't know. Maybe he's got like a zombie date to go on and needs something to give to his betrothed. Or am I trying to summon? Can I maybe... How many of these are? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I think... No, there's clearly a lot more than 7, Philip. There's clearly 10 there, not 7. I was wondering whether I maybe needed to plant the flowers here in order to achieve something, because I can hear something down there. It sounds like the rumbling of a very hungry tummy. I was wondering perhaps whether I was trying to summon this undying beast, perhaps, or resurrect it, as it were, which might make a little bit more sense, although I didn't realise that daffodils had that power, but it seems that they do. What do we have here? We have a little computer screen. What can we see on the computer screen? The story began with nothing, an absent... Do you mind? I am trying to read, and you're spoiling my audiobook recording. Thank you. An absent planner void. There was nothing. And then there was a scream. Yes, because somebody realised that I might play their game, and then that thought truly horrified them, and frankly, I can't much say that I blame them. Right then, moving swiftly on, let's just collect these flowers again. You know what this reminds me of? In a very stupid and random way, and I apologise that this memory isn't going to be very specific, but forgive me, I beg of you. I have vague recollections of playing a game years ago, like at the very beginning of the channel's history, and there was some bit of dialogue or writing where there was a person speaking about like making a game development company, and they wanted to make certain types of games, and they were saying that the sorts of games that they had to make were like shooters and horror games, because that's what people were into. And they said, what we wanted to do was make a nice game where you play as a fairy and collect flowers, but they thought nobody would buy it when they like went to some consultants or something. And I'm racking my brains trying to remember what that game was all about, or what game that even was in the first place. I can't remember. Played so many games over the years, they were starting to blend together after a while. But yes, now we are actually playing a game about collecting flowers. The scream came from the mist, but it also came from a place lost in time. Am I supposed to finish reading these by the time the screaming happens? Oh dear, I must be a very slow reader then, I apologise. Alright, so it seems like each of these lights is leading me to the next computer screen that contains another clue. And maybe they're meant to sort of lead me around on a pathway that will help me gather up the flowers. Because it seems like each flower is sort of nearby. Which would make sense, because in a world like this it would be very easy to get lost and just sort of wander around aimlessly for hours. So I'm glad they've got a little system in place to stop you getting lost. Unjustly slain, the beast rose again, their motives yet put to rest. Some funny noises going on. They sound a bit like aliens rather than anything else, but yes, most mysterious. So it's rising up, for it has a little unfinished business. I see, it didn't finish its tax returns, one presumes, and it feels it has a duty to society in order to get up and sort those out. Alright. Do we get a little bit more information about its interests? The abhorrent tragedy, their time had come so quickly, they would not die, they mustn't die. Thank you very much, game developer, for demonstrating that mustn't is a real word, because... Shush, I'm trying to have a quibble about vocabulary here. I've been using the term mustn't for years, and every time I use it, people say, that's not a real word, Phil. It is. It exists. I mean, it's a contraction. You can contract any two words together if you want to, presumably. I don't know. There must be the first person that put do not together and made don't. I'm sure people said that wasn't a real word either. I'm just tense at all right, vocal tense hour. The beast would deny death would exist beyond it. They wouldn't accept this lie. Goodness. They, seem a most determined thought. We do seem to have reached the edge of the world, and I'm not seeing another light. Does that mean I've seen all the computers now? And, no. Oh, no, there isn't. If I look off to the side, I can see one. That was a bit mysterious. It's almost like I took damage for a second then. As if like a little bit of blood appeared on the screen, but only for a moment. Yes, I thought maybe I'd seen all the computers, and, I was meant to have collected all the flowers now, but I have a funny feeling that's actually leading me back to the graveyard. No, it clearly isn't, because the graveyard is here. Let me hear a few more belly gurgles. I nearly tripped over somebody's grave. I do sincerely apologise. Is that... Well, there is a flower over there. I'm not sure I want it now. Is that a dead horse? Yes. Yes, that's a dead horse, and I forgot my cat and nine tails. That's a nice model. It's a bit spooky and disturbing, but it's quite a nice model in its own way. Goodness, people seem to be other people seem to be able to speak the English language, unlike me. Other people seem to be praising this game rather highly, from what I could see in the comment section under its page. They were saying quite good things about it, and in more articulated sentences than your average person. So that seemed quite encouraging. I can see where they're coming from. It's a very mysterious little game. The beast perverting fate just by existing in this absence haunted nothing but an empty void. I see. So it was it. Good afternoon. I'll get to you in just one moment. So the beast was able to circumvent death, but it could only exist here in this weird purgatory. Did you just see a big worm fly by? How very strange. And Mothman wearing a hat, as seems to have been floating here, has also decided to trot off. What a strange game. I very much enjoy these sort of strange, slightly abstract games that really make you scratch your head, as opposed to your average indie horror game that just makes you scratch your head thinking, how under the sun did anybody think this was publishable? But never mind. Fate would not abide. Death would struggle on regardless of its hunger. Nothing can exist here. There are no exceptions. I spy another light off there to the left. Goodness. So they really did want this to be an absolute void. And now that I think about it, with the exception of that worm and the moth that we saw, whatever's making that funny noise, everything here is dead. The horse, the trees, the ground. In fact, the flowers are the only living thing we've seen, other than me, of course. Gnawing painted void? Gnawing void pulled inwards to the beast, tearing its form into itself. The eternal beast would die. I see. Well, I guess the irresistible force and the immovable object had to meet eventually. Nothing that inherently scary has actually happened. Oh, here we are again. But I do feel rather disturbed. This is interesting. This must mean that the computers are spawning in a certain order, because there's no way I would have missed this when we saw the whale. Well, that's a pleasant bit of image. It's also shockingly 3D, which is very nicely done. Right, it seemed... Oh, good afternoon. Again, did that thing say shoot it? That's about all I could catch out of that. I had better go over there, because that means we're not near this thing. That makes me a happy man. Alright. Ah, and here's that... Oh no, it's not the worm creature, it's a shotgun. Well, I'm not really known for anything, but if I was known for something, I'd like to be known for a shotgun. So, me and my mittens will go for a little walk. There's something about the strange aesthetic of all this that reminds me of Nobody Lives Under the Lighthouse. Just like the visual style and the gun and the all the mystery of it. There's just something that kind of harkens back to that. Kitty yacht. I have no idea what that was. I think it had a large face that it kind of fired in my direction very, very quickly. Other than that, I haven't a baldies. Right then. I did click, but it doesn't seem to do any good. Neither of the clicking buttons seem to do anything. Presumably, I'm not prepped for battle yet. Maybe I need to find some bullets or something before I shoot another potential player. Hello, friend. Well, who got shot? Because either I've been murdered or I'm a murderer. Neither of these things are good. Ending one of two? Oh dear. It seems I have screwed everything up. Right then. Presumably that's the bad ending, and if you get all of the flowers, you can get the good ending. How do I get back to the menu? By doing that. Good. Not entirely sure what I did, because I pressed about 3 buttons at the same time, but that's just the kind of kind of stupid things I do. Right then, okie dokie, let's gather up the 7 flowers that we need before we deal with any of the computers, and then we'll see how things are different. Because I think I got about 4 or 5 of the first time around, so let's see if I can do any better. Oh, I see, you're meant to walk forwards when you begin and immediately see the first computer. Oh, see, I think I went the wrong way. Hello, Mothman with your hat on. Right then, yes. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be this way, you know, sort of infinitesimally annoying and stupid. I just sort of am. We've tried, right? We've had the doctors in and everything. And they just can't figure it out themselves. Alright then. Give me a few minutes. I'll gather up the flowers and I'll take us back through the computers again, and we'll see what happens then. Huzzah. Right then. We've collected up all of the daffodils. That didn't actually take as long as I thought it would. So now that we've sorted that out, I'll roll us through each of the computers, and then we can see what happens after that. See if we get any kind of a difference. I also wouldn't mind having a slightly better look at the final computer screen, the one that sort of smashed and went red. I'd like to have a slightly better look at what that said. It's always such an annoying thing that in editing I can see what things like that say, because I can just pause the video at the right moment. But, of course, one can't do that in real life. Occasionally one just plays so many video games in life that, so many video games that when playing real life, they begin to mistake video games for reality and say things like, I better save before I do this, and thinking, I need to go back and pause that, which has actually happened to me on about half a dozen occasions over the past few years, and tells me I should probably rein this hobby of mine in a bit. Never mind. Righty then, what did this say? I think it said, shoot it, kill yourself, you wretched something. Which is just the sort of peppy happiness I needed to hear today. Right then, if I may have this please, again, we shall see if we can have any better luck with this. I think it's like reload or something. Well, pressing R isn't doing any good, so one presumes the answer to that question is no. So, I still see the figure of the figure in the light by the computer. I do find myself wondering whether it's meant to be another image of me. Ugh. Ugh, is all I have to say about that. Goodness, that's most unpleasant. Unless now I can go to the graveyard. I tried going to the graveyard earlier once I'd collected all the flowers just to see if I could do anything with them. Like if I could plant them at the grave or something, or like put them into a bouquet and leave them like a gravestone, but I couldn't see anything that I could do with them. I'm just going to head back to the graveyard one more time now that I have the gun. And just see. There's still nothing I can do here, is there? I don't believe so, no. Is it just a case of you have the flowers or you don't? To flower or not to flower, that is the question, and so forth and such like. Perhaps, perhaps not, but we shall see what happens with the flowers. Can I see myself at all? See what I look like? See what sort of a handsome gent I am? Don't I look a bit scary, actually? And what's on the screen? I can't tell. It's white. I have no idea what it is. Yay! Well, that's a bit of a shame in the sense that the endings are so marginally different. In the sense that one ending you hear a gunshot and the other ending you don't. But I wouldn't have minded a little bit more sort of story or explanation. Sorry, I didn't mean to look off behind you there for a moment. There's a small bug crawling across the wall, and it rather distracted me. But then again, that wouldn't be the first time that a bug had spoiled the video, would it? Words that mean different things are so hilarious. Crying out loud. Just my replacement for a good joke, because goodness knows I haven't told any of those. Right then, that was The Undying Beast. I rather enjoyed that. That was very professionally put together, beautiful sound design, beautiful visuals, mysterious little story. I just wish there was a little bit more at the end. I like that it's leaving a bit of mystery in order to make it a bit sort of hazy as to what the truth of the whole matter is. I always like a game like that leaves a few sort of loose ends, but at the same time, if there was a little bit more, just to sort of show the meaning of why having the flowers made a difference. What did it mean? Did it mean that when I heard the nasty message on the computer, I felt like I had a good enough sort of mental health, as it were, to not listen to it because I'd gone on a lovely adventure and picked some happy flowers? Maybe. I don't know. But what I do know is that that was very good, and I very much enjoyed it. My name is Vergilius Morrow, and I am damned. Alright. I awake from death in a strange landscape. You're telling me it's strange. Gideon, look at those clouds. Right then, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a little game called Vergilius, which is possibly a reference. Sparse trees dot the terrain, but no sign of humanity greets my vision. Goodness. Yes, possibly it's a reference to the Roman poet Virgil. I don't know that. I just googled the name because I was wondering whether it was a word I wasn't familiar with, rather than just being like a trade name of a game. And it came up with the Roman poet Virgil, so perhaps there's some relation. Searching about myself, I find I have no anatomy. Goodness, I'm formless. But despite my lack of form, I walk regardless. Indeed. We can wander around this place so we can. The slight dotty visual effect and the sort of the square aspect ratio that we're looking through that fits with the camera perfectly now that I realise, which is nice. It makes a beautiful change. It reminds me of like an old camera, like a very old camera. In hopeless desperation, I search for progress or an ending. That could be the tagline of Outtakes for a long time. But I find no solace or destination ahead of me. You may not have found a destination, mate, but I have, because I can see something over there. Amongst this very, very loud atmosphere we can hear, I spy a thing. But, yes. Suddenly I noticed something on the horizon, indeed. I presume these are just coming up at, like, set time intervals rather than anything else. A strange form of clouds or trees waits in the distance. Oh, you meant that? Oh, I meant that. I do apologise. It's beautiful, though, isn't it, in its own freakish way? It sways unnaturally, as if beckoning me to come closer. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'm not convinced that's what it's saying, mate. It's more like, come over here and I'll kill you. But, yes, this was made by the same person who made Undying Beast. And it was also the same person who made Corpse Ocean, I believe, which we played in a shotgun a ways back. As I approach the clouded forest, it remains at the reaches of my vision. I am really beginning to wonder whether I should be walking in that direction instead of this one. But I really want to know what that funny dot is. I don't know if you can make that out. Then, just as it disappeared, and I found myself alone in a rotten sea of non-existence. It's gone. I do apologise. I'm so intent to find out what this silly thing is. It's probably nothing, or something that will just be infinitesimally far away from me and I'll never actually reach it. But, yes. I desperately try to think of my past life, hoping to anchor myself with memories. Strange effect. It's like photographs coming up, or little paintings. But as hard as I try, I cannot remember anything more than my name, Vergilius Morrow. Goodness, or Morrow, more likely, as opposed to the stuff in the middle of your brain, in your bone even. Is this true death? I feel like this is purgatory, a punishment for my actions in life. Oh dear, if I've been naughty, I do apologise. Wandering aimlessly in some unfinished, barren landscape. Goodness. This is very mysterious. I very much like this. It was described as sort of an experimental walking simulator, which are always an interesting little thing to get lost in. Lost in trembling thought, I awaken to realise another landmark has appeared. Where? I see it not. I mean, it's light over there and it's dark over there. Oh, goodness. It appeared at dual towers with a hollow space between. Indeed, but we've nearly reached the blob. I want the blob! Fear and anguish setting in as I quicken my pace. Oh, goodness, we have actually sped up a bit. I think. I need to reach the towers before they leave my sight, but I want the blob. I'm so curious what this whiffy blob is. I know you want me to go and see the Twin Towers, but I can't afford the cinema ticket at the moment. What is this blob?
The evolutionary level of that human synonymous with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. We can talk to you about the most urgent thing that is on our mind, and why we success is the most urgent thing on the mind of those who will connect with us.
How strange. I had to turn the volume right up in order to hear that. I'll do what I can to make that louder for you in editing, so that you can maybe have a listen to that as well. I'll do what I can. It sounded like a recording of someone giving a sermon, of like a preacher speaking about something. Most mysterious. I don't know if that was of any significance. I feel like some dialogue would have come up if it was all that meaningful, but how very strange. Strange. I mean, that does add to like the death sense, as you know, all religion is sort of concerned with that, if you know what I mean. Sort of what it is and what happens afterwards and so on and such like. At least to the best of my knowledge, I'm not an expert in these things, but it's stretch of the imagination. Right then. I didn't even realise there's trees at the top. I was going to say they're dead trees, but they're no deader than the ones around us. Goodness. They have a strange sort of weird leathery look to them, almost sort of like elephant's legs. Hey look, something alive. Finally finding progress, I enter the hollow between the structures. Indeed. At the centre of the hollow lay a simple rusted sword. May I have the simple rusted sword? Despite the heavy rust coating the blade, I can make out an old inscription upon it. Can you? Because I can't. I see some sort of decoration, but I don't see any words. Carpe vitam. Seize life again. Yes, Latin. I thought at first to take up the sword, but found that I had no ability. Oh no, I haven't invested my points in this RPG. Without form, I cannot extend outwards and influence this world. Oh, I see. After thinking about it for some, I realized what I must do. What must I do? Was that... I led her beside the... Oh no. Oh no. No. I could feel its jagged edge and sharp metal upon me, and it felt strangely warm. With one forceful push, I... Can we go back onto the main game bit, please, and not be sent to the desktop? Giddy aunt. Giddy aunt. Bloody game sending you back to the desktop, for goodness sake. Right. This is brilliant, but very, very weird. I can see why they described it as experimental, because it's certainly got that feel to it. But this is so beautiful. The landscape and what is undoubtedly the most detailed and animated skybox I've ever seen is really, really nice. It's so mysterious as well, and so unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before. I don't know. I don't even know how to define this or explain it. It's just most mysterious. I noticed a tree there with a funny looking shape. Reminds me of the pincers of a big beetle or something. rather spooky. But I really like this. I love these sort of strange, abstract, experimental games where people just make random stuff, right? Because this, I think, is what the indie market thrives on. This is what indie games are really about. Idiot. Vicious looking things, aren't they? Because if you described a game like this to a AAA studio and said, we expect you to make this and then sell it for money, their entire sales department and marketing team would laugh you out of the room, right? But that doesn't mean, just because it wouldn't sell, that it shouldn't be made, right? And that's why art and business so often benefit from being kept rather separate. I don't mean to be going into a philosophical rant here, but you know, given the nature of the game, it only seems plausible to go onto a bit of a philosophical tangent. Yes, art and business need to be kept a bit separate for things like this to flourish. Where is it this time? If I wander too far in the wrong direction, I can't see it this time. Oh no, there it is. Let's actually go in that direction this time for the sake of doing things properly. Yes, despite it being sort of, I suppose, a bit niche, a little bit unusual, I really do think that the indie market is sort of made for things like this, where a developer has sort of a random, strange, mysterious idea, and they want to share that with other people, and then they can use the medium of a game like this, or any other art form for that matter, in order to sort of communicate that to a wider audience and share this strange thought with them. Oh look, some grass. Some grass that's actually moving, implying wind. I mean, the clouds moving also implied wind, and the curry I had earlier implied wind, but you know, moving swiftly on. You actually get to see it vanish this time as well. I do wonder what happens if you just keep walking. Is there eventually an invisible barrier that you can encounter? Or does the game sort of carry on forever? Or it would be quite cool if it was built a bit like a sphere, like a sort of a world, as it were, and as you sort of kept walking around, you sort of looped back around, and eventually you ended up back in the same place that you were, because that would allow you to sort of walk forever. Can't tell what those are. It's most mysterious. I can't really make out what any of them are supposed to be, but I think that's rather the point of them, in the sense that you can't access the memories, which I think is quite a nice way of doing it, finding some sort of strange, random, abstract imagery that can be used to sort of confuse you a little bit. But I really like this. I really do. This is very strange and mysterious, and surprisingly enjoyable. And the atmosphere, it's not really atmosphere, I suppose it's music? I mean, it's not Glenn Miller, but it is music in one definition or another, I suppose. It certainly adds something to it. Without the music, this would fall completely flat on its face. So, is it growing up out of the ground rather than just appearing? Goodness. Very, very mysterious indeed. Oh, there we are. I'll get there quicker now. That's nice. Tell you another thing this reminds me of, actually, is the glowing sea in Fallout 4. Like the scorched earth and the barren trees. They remind me very much of the remains of a world after a sort of nuclear explosion, or another sort of similar natural disaster. Maybe like a sort of a solar flare that superheated the earth and burned everything down, perhaps? I don't know. But this is very nice, and I'm strangely compelled to keep walking, even though there's, by design, nothing to see. Mind you, we found that strange floating marble in the sky, didn't we? So maybe there's a little bit more to find out here than I initially anticipated. Yeah, I'm utterly compelled to keep going, even though I know I probably shouldn't. But we'll just make it as far as this tree, because that light is acting up so much that I've got to stop this now so I can bash it and sort it out. But this was brilliant. Strange, abstract, mysterious, and quite wonderful in its own way. Didn't notice the shadows before. Those were a nice touch. Good, yeah. I don't know what this is, but I really like it, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So thank you very much for joining me this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Look after each other, and good night.